breakup, it would cost us roughly $31,000. That number over the years seems to be going down. Considering when we went into the merger, the town was saving roughly $60,000. Where the conflict is happening, and I don't think that Greenville understands this because nobody asked me to speak on it today, they want more services. They want more officers to be on call. They were talking about adding another officer, so forth. Well, when you do that, it tips the scale. And now it is no longer to our benefit. Okay? So this is the balancing act that I have to do when I go to these meetings. It'd be nice to have 40 officers. It would be, but I'm always trying to keep that balance so that everybody benefits from it. And I don't know if they understand that. What is happening in law enforcement in the state, in the good old days, you could find somebody in town to be a part-time officer and you could put them on call and so forth. The state has changed their rules and their requirements over the years where you can't do that. One of the issues that came up in Greenville was having officers, quote, on call. Well, the sergeant that we have, Mike Needham, great guy, worked for us for 12 years, he lives in Chelmsford, Mass. So you can't put him on call. Part-timers live in Nashua, Milford, so it's not practical. The only two that live in the area is myself and Officer Russo in the back. So it's not viable to put officers on call for Temple and Greenville. Okay? It's going to be very difficult to do because the way it's written is I can't do it, so that leaves it all to CG. They're having a hard time understanding that they think that you can just order officers to be on call. Well, okay, Mike's coming from Chelmsford, Mass. You're going to wait a while. So this is where the conflict is coming from. They want more services. They want officers on call. They want foot patrols on Main Street and so forth. And when you start adding that, again, it tips the scale. So this is where the conflict's coming from. The merger has done what we wanted it to do. The crime rate today in Temple is lower than it was 25 years ago. The crime rate in Greenville, compared to today, to 1996, is 42% less than it was. Now that's not me, that's the officers. And it is a national trend that crime, to a certain degree, is going down. So, we've accomplished what we need to accomplish. My end of it is I'm proud to say that in the 25 years of being a police chief, and the last 11 years, as of today is our 11th year anniversary, we haven't had any scandals, we haven't had any lawsuits, we haven't had any issues. So what's important for you to understand that the issues are not with myself or the officers or the employees. This is between the contract negotiations between the towns. I do think that it is healthy that the towns get into these discussions because we want to make sure we have the best deal going forward. Okay? And like I said, what's important to me and the selectmen, keep an eye on that scale so it doesn't tip in the wrong way. Thank you.
Any question for the chief while he's here?
Is there an accounting on the percentage of calls that are in Mike Temple or Greenville?
It really depends on who you go with. Ballpark figure, 70% of our activity is in Greenville. That's a rough estimate. Some say 77, some say 65. Depends on what you're using for numbers. But yes, the majority of population is in Greenville, and the majority of calls are in Greenville. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. There's more population, more issues. So,
is there a way of weighing that versus economic impact, if you will? For instance, if you got 3 kids that are burning tires in the street, and you have 3 burglaries in another town, that's not like 3 and 3. I mean, there may be more calls there, but they may be of less severity. I don't understand it. I don't know if you can quantify that.
I think it would be difficult to do. Myself and the officers look at Temple and Greenville as one town. We don't have a border. We look at it as one town. There are going to be times when all of the officers are in Greenville, for whatever happens, and there's going to be times when all the officers are in Temple on the mountain, snowstorms, and so forth. So, you know, for us, a call is a call is a call. Just tell us the address and we go. But yes, they have a larger population. Yes, they have more calls.
We actually proposed that instead of basing the formula straight on population, that we base it 50-50 on population and share of services. Right now, we pay 39%, and we use the statistics to say that we had 31%. If you average those together, our share would then become 35%. That could be something we could talk to them about in the future. That was an idea that we proposed. We do right now share the recycling and the ambulance straight on population. But in this case, where we have some additional data, it might make sense to actually base it on a combination of both population and the share of services.
Sure, Judge. When we were negotiating with the people from Greenville, we tried to negotiate our percentage rate down to 35% rather than the 39%. And the commissioners from Greenville would have nothing to do with it. That represents the 4% difference means that we are subsidizing the police services by about $23,000+.
Bill is out right down the road. Just to be clear, so under this renewal, the contract terms are as they have been. We're not. I know there was discussion they wanted more representation. That's not part of this. We're giving them the current.
That I don't know, because the way the warrant article was written in Greenville and in Temple is, if the town chooses to stay together, then they start negotiating on the contract.
Okay, but that would have to be negotiated. There's no change.
Right, right. Greenville, I did write in there, and I don't know if I didn't pay attention to it. Greenville has it in their warrant article. If for some reason they can't agree, then it would dissolve.
Yes, yeah.
The way the contract is written is actually pretty interesting. The proposal is for a 2-year continuation. The contract actually is pretty flexible because it allows either town to tell the other town 6 months in advance, which would be September. The contract ends in the end of March. So either town could announce in September that they wanted to reconsider and bail out. So we may be looking at this again next year. Who knows? But that is a provision in the contract. It's a very flexible contract.
I'd just like to point out that one of the interesting things at the Greenville town meeting this morning was a statement by the chairman of their select board that the contract had been agreed to by the towns of Temple and Greenville. Up to this point, at least in the meetings that I've been in, it's been difficult to pin them down, them being the selectmen from Greenville. They had about 80 people in a room who were obviously not satisfied with the way that they had handled this. And Carl and Mary confirmed that the contract and the budget was had been agreed to between Temple and Greenville. So the question that was raised about their representation changing, the statement was made that that's all off the table.
Any other questions?